Hello everyone. Well, thank you very much for accepting our invitation today to join our IGMENA Google Hangout. I'm very excited and happy to see people coming from different countries and from different academic and professional backgrounds. We have participants and debaters from Yemen, Egypt, and Iraq today with us, and we will try together to talk about the practice and policy of internet filtering, censorship, and mass surveillance in the MENA region. So let me first reintroduce myself for you. My name is Hamza bin Mahrez. I'm the policy analyst lead of the Hibos Foundation. I work on the IGMENA and the Internet Governance MENA region program. And I'm very excited and happy to have you here. So let me first share with you some logistical instruction. Try to turn off your mobile phones and put your earbuds to limit the background voice. And try please to mute your voice when the other participant is speaking. This will make the meaning much more clear for us. And well, I will give you the floor now for each one of you to present himself and reflect on his academic and professional background before asking you the questions of the debate. Should we begin by Mr. Bushra from Egypt?
Hello, Hamza. Thank you so much for offering me this opportunity to be with you today. It's been a long time since we discussed our mutual topics. So my name is Shahir Bushra. My current job or role is the Director of Regulatory and Government Affairs at Mobilil, one of the mobile and as well as internet providers in Egypt. So I think that's it for the start.
Yeah, okay. So now should we move for Mr. Amr from Yemen?
Yes, my name is Amr Mustafa. I'm from Yemen, and I'm actually a network engineer. I've been working in the network fields for like 5 years. I'm also an IGMENA member, and I'm also a member of ISOC Yemen chapter.
Great.
That's it right now.
Yeah, nice to have you here with us, Amr.
Yes,
So should we move to Mr. Haider Hamdous? We are excited to have people from Iraq with us here today to reflect on the local situation. Can you really present for yourself for us and for the community?
Yeah, sure. I'm also happy to hear from other countries about their experience. So my name Haider Hamzouz. I work with the civil society since 2004, but I have expert and in bloggers and social media since 2008. And I'm a founder of and coordinator for a network of bloggers and citizen journalists called the Iraqi Network for Social Media, established in May 2011. From academic perspective, I'm a master's student in fine arts, graphic design. It's a very different field where, if we compare it with what I work. And besides that, I have also a diploma in social innovation in digital context from Lund University in Sweden. Thank you.
This is really great, Haider. So we have people who have a certain and a wide expertise on the issue of today, and I will try to after reading the concept note, I will try to ask you 5 questions during the debate. So related to the debate, and feel free to expand on those questions. So we will try to look to the practice and policies of censorship and mass surveillance in your own country. And the first question I will ask the expert in the room, Mr. Bushra, about the censorship and surveillance technology that are deployed in your country, and how these censorship and surveillance tools affect the security of end users in Egypt.
Okay, actually my answer will only be limited for the current implementations, because it might change in the very near future. But so far the government is relying on the individual ISPs or providers. So ever since the revolution of 2011, when they decided to cut the internet completely for 4 days, they relied on the service provider. They sent us orders to disconnect from the internet completely. So, which proves that they don't have the technical capabilities to censor from their side. So, everything they relied on us. And actually, the recent developments in this field are actually a couple of developments. If you recall, a couple of years ago, there was a movie that was required to be censored from YouTube. At that time, they ordered the ISPs to cut the link to the YouTube, but due to the fact that the URL keeps changing, we weren't able to rely on our technologies. So the alternative was to contact Google and remove the link for this YouTube movie from the source, from Google itself. So this is another proof that we don't have the capabilities, at least back then. The latest development is during the exam, the ثانوية عامة exams, the high school exams in Egypt. There are so many sites or Facebook pages that encourage cheating, that encourage solving the exam for the students. They get a copy from the actual exam and they solve it online. So this is very recent, last June, July. Their only way is to contact us as ISPs and ask us to block the link. So I can confirm that until now they don't have the capabilities to block it or to censor centrally. But again, this might change very, very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bushra. So I will try to ask the same question to Mr. Haider Hamza from Iraq. I want to hear your perspective from your country on how censorship and surveillance is deployed technically, and how that deployment affects the security of end users in Iraq.
Yes, regarding to the censorship in Iraq, you know, Iraq, if we compare before and after 2003, there is a big difference between these two. Before and after 2003. Before 2003, there is no technology, there is no mobile networks. Everything is forbidden and not allowed by the regime. And after that, a new technology suddenly entered to Iraq after 2003 without educating people how to use this technology in general, or how to use it in a good way and use it as a good tool to make the life of people easier, and or they invest the technology. Maybe we can say till now, yes, there is some weak points about that, but after ISIS went entered to Iraq in June 2014, there is a lot of reports we collect about the development that happened. More than 300,000 people, they joined Siphon to access to the website, because the social media websites like Facebook, YouTube, blocked by the government in whole Iraq, and the internet shut down in 5 provinces that when ISIS entered to these 5 provinces. So the people educate themselves and they listen also to different organizations, and some one of them, to how to access to information. People, they are looking all the time to see the information, and this is the mistake that done by the government when they block the social media and they block the access to information, because ISIS is not just weapons or guns. You use guns in this war. There's information war, and you need to face this information by information. And if you block this access to the information, it will be a problem. So people, they are looking for different tools to still be accessed. So they use Siphon and other tools to access. And there is a lot of numbers, high numbers. They download this application, and also they use other application, but they don't know if it is protect their privacy or not. So this is a problem. They know how to use some of these applications to access, but the problem they take care about their privacy on internet, not just their privacy, about privacy of their friends, because the social media or the networks in general, it's linked. So if I don't care about my privacy, that's mean I don't care about my friends' privacy. And also we have a experience with the law that we faced it in 2011 when they proposed a draft law about the IT crimes law in Iraq, and it's very bad law. So I can just read the Article 4 from it. It said that if anyone like create or manage or promote for a website that speak against the ideas of government or about the ethics of Iraqi families, or they speak with enemies of Iraq, all these like let's say the word is flexible. You can use it anytime, any place, and you can use it in a different way. There is no clear definition for
so the article in itself is punitive, so it has a punitive aspect.
Yeah, so that's why if you did that regarding to the Article 4, you go to the prison for forever, and also you need to pay like around $20,000, not less than $20,000, and not more $40,000 because this article.
Well, thank you very much, Haider, for your insightful perspective. I want to hear from Mr. Amr now your perspective, because Yemen is pretty similar to Iraq in many ways. And so how is censorship and is deployed in Yemen? How does this really affect end user security?
Yes. Well, the situation in Yemen has been complicated for years. In Yemen, we had before the revolutions in 2011, we had a censorship, and we had also surveillance. It's applied in many levels. Now, after the revolutions, and now especially in 2015, which is considered one of the worst years in the freedom of expression, Yemen have faced many different angles of attacking the censorship problem. First, we have only one ISP provider, and all the data goes through this only ISP provider, which is owned by the government. Also, the government is applying filtering and applications that block websites. So after the Houthis took over the country, in the last 6 months, they blocked more than 30 websites that they are very well known, and they present ideas that the Houthis think that they don't support them, and they oppose them. So also for example, also the government applies censorship applications. I believe a hacking team which was hacked a few months ago, they also had WikiLeaks emails that showed that the national security of Yemen has asked for censorship applications. Actually, we don't know where these negotiations came to, but people from Yemen, they know that all their conversations or their emails or their websites are being censored. The other level of censorship in Yemen is the content censorship, as the government tried to control the content, what the people write, especially on social media. In the time of war now, what kind of content? Yeah, a political content actually, and specifically, because in the time of the war, Houthis are trying to contain the general opinion about them or about their operations. It doesn't matter if they are right or wrong, but to block websites just because they oppose them or just to arrest somebody because he's writing an article to criticize the current situation, well, it seems illogical. So this here is considered as one of the worst, as this censorship is being done randomly and only based on political views, and so.
Yeah, thank you for your perspective. Amr. So we will go now from the censorship and surveillance technology deployed in your countries to and their effect on online security of end users to the examples of or cases of censorship and surveillance technology in your country, and what are the institutions involved in sponsoring surveillance and censorship. I want to hear from Mr. Bushra from Egypt.
Okay, actually, the current regulatory framework allows for fighting the illegal voice over IP bypass. So it is within the legal framework, within the telecom law, that is illegal voice bypass should be banned. So from this specific point, the the government at large has the right to invest in some equipment with the purpose of fighting voice over IP. However, those same equipments can or may be used in the future for other purposes like censorship. However, the regulatory framework doesn't clearly allow any.
So it is legal. So it is legal to.
No, the only legal aspect is fighting voice over IP, international illegal voice over IP. However, if you do the setup, if you invest in the capital, in the equipment to do the setup to fight voice, you have the means to fight other applications or to censor or to block access to other applications. So this is the fear we have, because we know that there are some legal serious steps in this direction of installing VoIP filters or deep packet inspections filters that can easily be used in the future for other applications.
So the issue now of the NTRA blocking social media in Egypt or Skype is not totally true. So, but you're confirming that the voice over internet protocol can be blocked and it is legal.
Yes, it can be blocked, but not okay. To make it clear, I'm not talking about OTTs, and we're not talking about WhatsApp voice. We're not talking about Skype. We're talking about we call them the Magic Jack or the SIM boxes. So whatever voice applications that does not cross through the legal licensed international voice gateways. So the OTTs are not the main issue right now. However, things evolve very quickly, so it might change in the future.
Yeah, I want to ask the same question for Mr. Haider. I mean, in Iraq, you have been like active. You have a booming civil society right now, really active in this issue of really making people aware of how to encrypt themselves against censorship and surveillance in Iraq. So what are the institutions involved in censorship and surveillance in Iraq? And can you tell us the tools that these institutions are applying when it comes to censorship and surveillance?
Yes. So regarding to the encryption, it's not a very popular concept in Iraq, and if people know that, they thought you are like hackers or things like that. A lot of absolutely maybe 100% of the organization they not use these tools to encrypt, or even they protect their privacy. They don't know how to use their tools, digital tools, to protect their data and their sources. They use it just to promote and to be found, or maybe just to have a digital ID. If someone asks them, are you on social media, they will say yes. They don't care about the encryption and things like that. But since 2014, there is some people become interesting about that, and we did since 2013 till now, a lot of workshop about encryption, and encryption is very important to not just to protect your privacy. It's a part of from the life. It's a style life of using internet in your daily life. There is no something like legal things or laws to prevent using these tools. You can use these tools, but if the government hear about that, maybe they will. There is, you know, in Iraq it's difficult to follow the law. There is the parties who control Iraq. There is no like a strong government to protect, to lead the power. So that's why the parties, some armed groups, militias, they will take care to treat you or kill you if you are using these tools, and they will thought you are speaking with some international organization who they want to take their power from their hand and things like that. So that's why we are doing this workshop with specific people like human rights defenders, citizen journalists who they have this important information and need to protect. So that's why we give them these.
But in Iraq, yeah. But in Iraq, you still have like some ISPs blocking VPNs, virtual private networks, right? So you still have like some websites who are still blocked by the government.
Yes, before if we speak about now, there is no websites blocked, but before 2 or 3 months, yes, there is a website, like a news website like Al Arabiya, Al Jazeera, Al Baghdadiya, and other websites. It's around 17 websites blocked by the government since ISIS entered to Iraq, and the government thought this news platforms, they separate some not good news about against the government or make problems between the people. So that's why they block them instead of educate people how they can deal with the information or face the information. As I said before, with the information, the ISPs they give this information by orders to the Ministry of Telecommunication or to the National Security list, to be clear. So there is no a direct control on them. So they tell the ISPs to give this information, and directly ISPs, they don't care about the privacy of people. They send the information directly if they need it, if the national security need it. The only things they take care from the ISPs that people still subscribe to them and give them money. And this is what happened when a lot of people, they cancel like pay to the ISPs, because they told them we don't have Viber, we don't have these tools, why we are paying money with the internet? We don't need internet. So that's why the ISPs teach the people how they can install these applications like Siphon and other tools to access to information and keep these people with them to take their money.
Yeah, thank you very much for your substantial information. That's really insightful. So the same question goes to Amber. So what are the cases of censorship and surveillance in Yemen, and what are the institutions involved in that particular game of censorship and surveillance?
Yes, in Yemen, censorship is mostly applied on political media and also in pornography and some religion-related content or websites. In addition to that, some I can say activists or journalists are being censored due to their activities and their views, that is either with or against the ruling government. However, in Yemen, we don't have a regulation authority that is responsible for seeing how this censorship is being applied, nor we have a CERT team that can help people to defend or protect their privacy. Um, it is not really clear how much or how big the censorship in Yemen is.
How to scale?
However, people know. I mean, many people got arrested for just posting something, and what's happening now is really dangerous because those people who got arrested, they are being taken to places where their lives are threatened. What people do to protect their privacy is actually, as Mr. Hamzouz said, they use third-party tools and applications like VPNs and to allow them to access the blocked contents, and also to kind of secure the connection. However, the end user's awareness of the problem and the end user's knowledge of the privacy, the censorship, and these related issues and how to protect themselves is still very, very low. And ISOC have been doing some work on this, and we have applied some workshops for activists and for journalists to educate them on how to use these tools and how to protect your connections and how to protect yourself online. So
that's really interesting. I will go back to Mr. Bush. If you can take your hat of technical expert to more of a human rights issue. So what are the impacts of censorship and surveillance or on the human rights aspects of people using the internet or end users, particularly in particular country like Egypt? So can you tell us, can you give us cases of human rights violations and how the technical deployment or the technical censorship is linked to human rights, end user safety or abuse of human rights?
Okay, in reality, nothing yet, as mentioned before. So we're only anticipating what could happen in the future in case censorship rule is empowered. So actually, away from the technicalities, as you mentioned, actually, my answer is not neither legal nor technical. It's about social. I don't think with the current power of the internet, the power of the social media, any censorship will be ever successful. Not after the revolution. If we learned anything from the revolutions, it's the power of the people. So people now understand that they have the power. So they cannot be dictated what to watch and not to watch, what to tell and what not to tell any longer. So I believe in the social power and not the technical or legal aspects. So I believe even if they try in the future, it will fail.
Mm-hmm. So the government attempts to block and to censor the internet will fail because of the power of the people, because people now they are aware in Egypt or have sufficient level of awareness to try to react against the government, inform themselves into coalitions. So this is like the power of the people will be cost beneficial in the future, right?
Exactly. In addition to actually, I don't want to jump to the next debate, the next discussion. But I think people have the tools as well, technical tools, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we move to Mr. Hamzouz. I know that you have been active as well in the Iraqi social media network. So how your everyday involvement in civil society really help the end users to be safe against censorship and surveillance from the government, and how as well as technical deployment of censorship can affect the human rights and end users in Iraq.
Yes, so there is two levels of educate people. First level is a method or theoretical thing. So, for example, we make a show for the Citizen 4 film. It's talk about Snowden case and how he deal about the mass surveillance that happened. And after they saw the film, we make a discussion about that, and we compare what's happening in the United States and outside the United States about the censorship for the phone calls, for everything, and try to compare it with Iraq. How is that? How is government deal with the censorship? And the problem with that, always talk about maybe a lot of people, because they feel the government is weak, so they thought that's mean the government don't have time to censorship the website, and always try to educate them. If the government weak, they can make agreement with other countries, and this is what happened. For example, there is some agreement with Iran, with another countries about make some censorship inside Iraq, and also.
Yeah, and what is the reaction of civil society here, or the massive people who wants like to really build a more inclusive and safe space of internet in Iraq, like yourself, or like the network of people that you know?
Yeah, so for the people, for the people who are educated, who they know what's the meaning of censorship, they are very angry about that. But at the same time, they use these tools trying to be protected and try to educate people and how to use these tools. And for example, the parliaments in the last month, they ordered to block the pornography websites in Iraq, but till now it's not implemented because there is a lot of monies need to do that, and beside that, they till now did not block the ISIS website. How they can block the pornography website? There is a lot of keywords they need to use it. How they can how they block the web pornography website? Beside, there is some medical. Like medical concept or words need to be not to be blocked for the student if they want to make a research. So that's why there's a problem and a big discussion about that. But the good thing is that the way that INSIM organization, how to use, we involve the government, we involve the parliament who issue the law with this discussion. We did not make advocacy against them directly. We invite them and involve them with our discussion. That's why this style of work success to be trusted by parliament to invite us to edit some law and take their views. And in the end, the dialogue is very important, to make a dialogue with the government and educate them, because if you order and issue a law about in Iraq, there is a problem with the implement that. How the police know to implement this law. Also, the judges, they need they need experts. They need to be expert and trained how to deal with these issues.
Can you maybe quickly give us an example of how your work with the government really changed, maybe the application of a law or the drafting of the law, and even the interpretation of that particular law in Iraq when it comes to the internet? Can you give us one quick example of that?
Yeah, maybe I can. I remember one of the examples about IT crimes law in Iraq. So in the beginning of 2013, the parliament issued an order to take down the law, the crimes law, because they need to be edited after a 1-year advocacy by INSIM and other organizations, and after a lot of dialogue happened in Baghdad and south of Iraq, and we did one in the north of Iraq and in Erbil, in Kurdistan region. So after this style of work, let's say, we success to revoke this law, the crimes law, in 2013, and they invite us to take our opinions and how they can listen to the comments. But in the end, now the law back to the parliament with a lot of same articles, and they did not take all of the comments. So that's why we back to work on that, make some pressure on them, use some our networks to give them some examples about that, because they don't know how they will implement this law. They thought if they issue the law, they will protect Iraq from everything, and they don't know how, from technical perspective, how they can do that. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, and I want to ask the same question for Amr. I know from your membership with ISOC in Yemen how censorship and surveillance practices can really affect the human rights of end users in Yemen, and what kind of ISOC initiative has been implemented to really try to advocate or try to work with the government on those particular issues.
In the case of Yemen, actually, ISOC, we did something, but I think it was in August 2014. We did like an introduction to internet governance, where one session was talking about the regulations and regulations. The absence of regulations make it really kind of weird, you know. It kind of you don't know where to start. So on this in this session in August, we invited people from many multi-stakeholders, and also from the people from the government, from the Ministry of Telecommunication, and also lawyers and the Attorney General, to talk about the legal side of the problem. We don't have a regulation authority, as I said, and this is the first step we should do to if we want to talk about any regulations or any workshops or any development in this regarding the censorship or the human rights. We have first to know who's the authority that is responsible about saying what to do and how to do it, and who's responsible about it. So ISOC has been doing some work, but due to the recent action or the war, we hopefully try to, if things go back to normal in a few coming weeks or months or years, nobody knows, we can go back to work on this, because this is where we should begin.
So you're keeping for you safe. Then you will maybe try to implement it after the hopefully after the war in
actually now there are, as I said, there are other priorities for all parties. I mean, for ISOC, for the government, for example, now in ISOC we're trying to make access, because internet goes and there faces some cuts in some cities due to the situation. So ISOC is doing projects to connect the internet via satellites, to help humanitarian works and keep the outward knowing about the current situation. So yeah.
So let me ask a technical question to Mr. Bushra now. So what, from your wide technical expertise, what are the methods or the technical circumvention tools that end users can use, whether in Egypt or in the MENA region, that can maybe make those end users less exposed to human rights violations by any authority in their own country, and that will let them as well bypass the filters and restriction of the governments. So from your technical background, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I believe the normal average user is very literate when using such techniques to bypass all the measures or the censorship measures. So to start with, there are the use of proxy servers. So if you connect to a remote proxy server in a different country, so you're actually bypassing all the measures that is done inland. So the list of proxy changes every day. So is the fighting techniques. So it's a continuous development. Other than the proxy servers, if you have a subscription to a VPN, you're just securing your pipe to the internet. So instead of receiving virtually as if instead of receiving your service from a local ISP, you're connected to a remote ISP. So, and this VPN is encrypted, so whatever censorship does not apply to it. As Amr mentioned in his last statement, with the other access technologies such as satellites, they are by no means central, they are not hierarchical. So satellite connections, for example, by nature are not censored, except if you install the sensor or the servers on the satellite or the satellite land station. So the techniques are numerous, and as I mentioned, people learn very quickly. So I don't think any implementation will be successful for more than a few days.
Well, let me just add just a short question. Is it legal in the constitution, in the Egyptian constitution, to use those encryption tools, or is it illegal, or is there any law pertaining to that use of VPNs or encryption tools?
Yeah, that's a very valid point, actually. According to the law, ISPs do not have the right to encrypt, or any service provider does not have the right to encrypt, except after obtaining an approval from the authorizing agencies. However, this does not apply to end users, limited to this limitation.
Yeah.
So end users have the freedom.
Yes. So same question goes to Haider from Iraq. I want to hear your perspective as a civil society activist on the encryption tools that can really use to circumvent government's interference in the online spheres of end users in Iraq. What are those tools, and how do you think they can be implemented for the normal end user?
Yes, I think from my perspective, the more important that first of all, to know about the environment of your work and your network. So you need like make a structure or circles, and then you can organize your network and make like a privacy for each network for your work. And the most important, more than encryption, the style of life to use. For example, if you participate in a workshop or something like that, how to leave your computer or your phone and mobile phone, or how to use these digital tools in a smart way. This doesn't mean that because when we have experience with that, when explained to them in the training, the people will afraid from using these tools, and this is a problem. How we can make a balance between people not afraid and from these tools, and at the same time how they can use these tools with in a good way with this encryption. And sometimes if you put a lot of limitation or a lot of tools to use it to protect yourself, it will be hard for you, and you will maybe hard to send just one email because you encrypt each email. So that's why I said you need to make different circles, different network, and put a plan for that.
Yeah. So it's a matter of balancing technology perception and culture of the use of that particular technology in Iraq, because people maybe they would be fed up from using all of those encryption tools.
Yeah, totally right.
So same question goes to Amr from your expertise. What are the censorship and surveillance tools that a normal user can use in Yemen and to circumvent censorship and filtering by the government? And that can be, at the same time, the policy can be really easy for the end user to implement and use.
Yes. As Mr. Bishra said, I think the same tools are being used. Proxy servers and VPN connections that secure the end-to-end, data transmission. However, the problem is not with the tools as it is with the end user himself. The level of awareness, as he also said, it is very still low, and people do not know what tools to use and how to use, and if even they are existed. So I think we should focus more on how to train the end user to use these tools and to work on these tools, and how can they use you can find on the internet many tools that are fraud, and they can cause or can they fire back. So how to use a trusted tools or programs. And so rising the level of awareness is, I believe, is the issue at the moment. Although I don't know about Iraq and Egypt, the case in Yemen that the ISP is trying to block the access to these tools, for example, the CPhone, as Hamzou said, or the Hotspot Shield, or other applications. There are also websites that you can use to, you can use to serve other websites. Yeah. So all these are blocked by the ISP. So this is how the matter from the end user's perspective.
Yeah, great. So we are now in the last question of the. I mean, one of the most important question, I think. So from the perspective of Iraq, Mr. Haider Hamza, what do you think are the policies that can be implemented to try to maybe to reinvent the wheel in the dialogue between the public policy in Iraq and the corporate government, really dealing with the structure in Iraq? Is there any policies or initiatives that are ongoing right now in Iraq?
Sorry, Hamza, I couldn't hear the question directly because there is echo. I hear your voice two times at the same time.
The question was, is there any initiative in Iraq?
I think the voice coming from the echo coming from Yemen side. Maybe if we can mute the voice. I think.
Yes, sorry, a moment.
From Amr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I think it's better, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think it's better. I think we are in the last question of the debate, and I wanted to ask you if there is any open public policy and corporate governance debate in Iraq that can really try to reinvent the wheel of the government and secure private web browsing for end users. Is there any willingness of the government and the corporate sector to decided to engage together in the debate about the policy and practice of internet filtering and mass surveillance in Iraq?
There is the government tried to make like the e-government program to implement that, but in one level, just to make the issue of the documentation issued easy for Iraqis. Just from one perspective, there is no ideas or policy to protect the end users in Iraq. So that's why the ISPs, they have a free space to use this information without control from the government or or without transparency to show the people how to use this information. Until now, we face a weak knowledge with how people they should take care for their privacy, and we are trying to give a lot of examples about that. Yeah, so I think this is the answer. I think.
So the same question goes to Mr. Bushra. How can you really engage and the public policy debate with the government or with a corporate agency in Egypt to try to maybe reinvent the wheel of the government and other stakeholders in Egypt to try to work on this issue of filtering, encryption, and end user security in Egypt. Is there any willingness or mechanisms that you can think of, or policies?
Yeah, I think what we lack the most is the transparency framework. So there is an official framework that only contains the regulator, the Ministry of Telecommunications, and those are not the only players, only influencers. There are so many different, real more powerful entities, such as the military authorities or any other such authority that are active in the regulatory framework. So what we need to start with is to have a transparent framework that states the role of each entity. And I think this is the role of the parliament as well as NGOs. So as NGO, we're active in this role as the ISOC Egypt, the Egyptian chapter of ISOC. It's called Internet Misr. We're trying to do our role in this, as well as so many other successful NGOs.
So do you think that, I think this is a tricky question, because in Egypt we have this dual technology use from the side from the military and from the other side from the government. But how can you think that maybe exporting or implementing technology maybe will try to influence the hegemony in a positive way of the military in this technology area, or this technology dual use?
Yeah. Actually, as we mentioned at the beginning, from the current official regulatory framework, in the current telecom law, it doesn't allow censorship or doesn't allow touching any of the rights of end users. So we have this on paper. So if we have a transparent framework, what I mean is what we have on paper should be applied in real life. So this is the main issue. Or else, if you would like to include some other conditions, some other change in the situation, have it changed on the paper as well. So I think if they manage to, if they have the courage to do that, they will have opposition from the parliament, from the NGOs. So let's stick to our current constitution, and this is what we have.
This is really great. So the question goes as well to Mr. Amr about this. How can you engage in the debate between like the public policy framework and corporate governance, and how maybe try to find the balance between those two entities, and think that can maybe work on the safety of end users in Yemen?
Yes. In the case of Yemen, we have many parties are involved, if I can say. Now, telecommunication is mainly ruled by the Ministry of Telecommunication, and it is represented by the General Telecommunication Foundation, that is responsible about other mobile operators and internets and ISPs, and and censorship is mainly made or done by the national security. So you can see this is kind of a working ground for many parties. So we can start working, and also the corporates and many private sectors need more space, and they need how to put this, they need more like I can say freedom this way, for all parties to start working together. So as I'm saying all over and over again, we cannot start doing anything, we cannot start doing anything until we have a regulator authority that is responsible between parties, private user, and they should tell, and they should know how things should go and how things should you know, where things should go together. I think Mr. Bishar, if you can take over from here.
No, I'm not sure I managed to hear the last part. I'm not sure about the others. Did you manage to hear the last part?
We lost Hamza, but we still live, and okay. Talking about the situation in Egypt, I mean, if we are comparing the two regulator authorities, how do you in Egypt work the process of, for example, finding a new policy, you know, making a new policy or something?
Yeah, the situation is. I mean, yeah, the situation is. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it's not muted. Okay, make sure that it's not. Yeah, the situation in Egypt is very. How can I say it? It changes every 6 months, so it's nice to be in Egypt nowadays. With this, we have a new minister every 6 months now. We start all the policies from the beginning every few months as well. So it's interesting. It's nice to be here at this time. So actually, we have zero visibility about the future. We don't know what initiatives could be successful and what not. Not only limited to our topic of discussion today, the censorship, but in general. We at some point of time we had a very strong initiative of applying unified licensing, by which all the operators have the same rights and same obligations. And this was done with the change of the minister. So, and this is just an example. So, how the policy is being made? It's top down. It's top down from the minister. However, nothing is really achieved. We change the ministers every 6 months.
Oh, I see.
It's
so
a situation in Egypt nowadays.
Okay. In the regulating authority in Egypt, how many parties or representatives or something do you have, you know, in achieving a policy or so? I mean, do you have representatives, or is it just an independent regulator authority or something?
Okay. Again, this is a unique situation. The regulator in Egypt has a board of directors that consists of 17, and I checked with mainly everywhere. The number of 17 board members is not available at any other regulator. This is a very huge number of board members who represent all the different entities in the country, except for the parties, as you mentioned. So there are representation from the Ministry of Finance, from the Army, from the media, from the telecom. Actually, the chairman of the board is the Minister of the Telecommunications. So I cannot claim that the regulator is that independent. Actually, it's not. However, the good news is that most of the decisions, the daily decisions, do not need a board approval. So the executive management of the regulator is totally independent from the board to a great extent. So our daily communication, our daily life with the regulator is very easy, except if we want something that has to be approved from the board. At this stage, we lose our visibility, whether or not this would meet the mindset of the different authorities.
Okay, if I can go to Mr.